Well, good afternoon. Brigadier General Al Flowers, Jr. here. Currently, I'm the Director of Manpower, Personnel, and Resources of the Air Force Medical Service Corps Chief as well, the Office of the Air Force Surgeon General in Falls Church, Virginia. So today, it's my honor and distinct pleasure. I want to narrate a panel, February Black History Month, a panel discussion on the importance of diversity in medical recruitment. To this end, I am so fortunate and blessed to have an amazing and talented and a diverse team at that point here on the line to share their thoughts with me as well. So we have Tech Sergeant Denarius Mitchell. Tech Sergeant Mitchell enlisted in the Air Force in August of 2005 from Tupelo, Mississippi. He's currently assigned to the 342nd Recruiting Squadron located in San Antonio, Texas. Tech Sergeant Mitchell is responsible for commissioning high-quality medical professionals in the Air Force and directly responsible for 97,680 miles, which includes 30 educational institutions and 123 medical facilities. So, Denarius, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you very much. Also, we have Lieutenant Colonel Saunya Brig. He's the Chief of Medical Force Development and Training and the Associate Director for the Air Force's Biomedical Services Corps, which is our most diverse corps with 13 different specialties that make up that corps. Lieutenant Colonel Brig is the Chief of Officer of Force Development and Training. In this role, he is responsible for developing Air Force medical service policies and guidance, facilitating Air Force medical service force development programs, and overseeing the Health Professions Education Requirements Board. Additionally, Lieutenant Colonel Brig is the Associate Director of the Biomedical Services Corps. Saunya holds a Bachelor of Science in Nutritional Science from Tuskegee University, a Master's of Public Administration from Troy State University, and a Master's of Business Administration and a Master's of Science in Institutional Administration from Texas Women's University. So thank you and for joining us as well, Lieutenant Colonel Brig. And also we have an amazing second Lieutenant Carlson Teboh, who's currently a third-year student at Creighton University. You talk about an amazing, inspiring story. Originally hails from Cameroon, and looking forward to many years of service with Carlson as a physician in the profession of arms in the U.S. Air Force Medical Corps. So Carlson, welcome to you as well.
Thank you. And sorry I joined the panel a little late, but I had a little blurb, but I sent you a direct message, but you didn't have a job without it.
So tell us yourself about the blurb.
Well, it had a fun fact there. Well, it mentioned that I did do my undergrad in DC at Georgetown in physics, and also that I hope to pursue anesthesia after medical school. And I've been to 14 countries so far and hope to hit 40 countries by the age I'm 40.
What is your favorite of the 14?
That I've been to so far? Israel.
Israel. All right. Well, Lindsay, who's with me as well, I think you two are kindred spirit because she's got the travel bug and worked in amazing international affairs story. So that's a further discussion for you offline. So I think you probably, the world is so small, but I bet you have some commonalities as well.
Sure.
All right. So on this theme, if you wouldn't mind, I just want to talk a little bit about this. February Black History Month, and I just want to ask you, if we talk about Dr. King and Rosa Parks, some of the notable icons and figure for Black History Month that unites us. So for me, I want to hear your thoughts. For me, someone will say, hey, February is Black History Month. It's February of each month, almost like the holidays, it's coming. But for me, right, wrong, and indifferent, I'm a proud African-American, proud Black American. But for me, it shouldn't just reside with the month of February. So just like I'm proud as an African American February, I'm proud the other 11 months of the year. So with that being said, it shouldn't, with the theme of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity, with Black History Month, it should go beyond the month of February. So that's what it means to me. Is we talk about the examples, the legacy that you leave, the indelible mark that you're trying to leave into others. So I like to starting with, I'll go to the bottom. Saunya, what does Black History Month mean to you? I shared a little bit about some of my sentiments.
Black History Month means to me a time to engage, interact, and reflect on where we've been and where we want to go. Um, I believe that every day is Black History Day. I mean, Black history is our history, it's everyone's history. And so the goal that I ascribe to is to be the best that I can be, and to demonstrate what a proud legacy I have come from, and the shoulders, we stand on shoulders of giants, really. And so I want to continue that legacy, and also remember where we've come from. And so I appreciate the fact that we have the month, but like you too, sir, I believe that every day is our history day.
I agree. It's thank you, Sonny. It's a profound month, but it says Black History Month, whether it's we're celebrating Hispanics or women's or Asians. I think what defines us are Black History Month. To your point, on the shoulders of giants, we've learned a lot from others from other months. That's what makes us so rich. It makes us so proud. And define not only us in Black History Month, but many other months and many other folks that we live, we worship with, we serve with, we do so many other things with. So with that being said, we realize that we're truly a melting pot. What makes America great is to your point, Carlson, about traveling and seeing the world. We talked a little bit about your background. How does that shape you and your thoughts of celebrating Black History Month? Because I think you've got so many different spectrums or lenses that you could look through as well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Of course. So I was in Cameroon from ages 0 to 8. That's where I was born. That's where I grew up. It's obviously a majority Black environment. And so I have an African identity, but having lived in America now from since I was 16 till now 30, I have 14 years here, including third, fourth, and fifth grade. So I've spent 17 years in the US, and I feel like I've been able to enter the Black American experience. And for me, Black History Month is just a time to, I agree with what Lieutenant Colonel Bright said, every day is Black history, because historically, Black history has not been acknowledged. The accomplishments of Black Americans have not been acknowledged. And I think February is just a time for us to remember that. But Black History Month does not end in February. And if it wasn't for heroes, for me, my biggest hero in the Black history world, as far as medical goes, is Dr. Ben Carson. And, and I feel like I would not be where I am without his accomplishments, without his story. I read his biography at a young age. It really inspired me that, he had all of those barriers, and he was able to make it. And, I have hope. So, and I think there's a lot we can learn. There's a reason why, my family immigrated here. Things are not great in a lot of the African countries. And I have a lot of respect for Black Americans who've been here as minorities and have fought really hard to secure the rights that they have, that that African immigrants now get to enjoy. Many of them don't even enjoy those rights in their own countries, and those countries are majority Black. So for me, Black History Month is a time to have these conversations and learn from one another and see how we can move forward.
Thank you, Carlson. And something that resonated with me is as I transition to Tech Sergeant Mitchell here too. What binds us all together is on, and I know you've got another set of uniforms as well, Carlson, is this U.S. Air Force on the left side of our chest, right? For all parts of the world. It's a commonality. It's the bond that brings us all together. It's this U.S. Air Force on our chest. And we all have a name tag that someone paid the sacrifices so we could humbly and proudly wear that name tag that preceded us. So with that being said, Denarius, being born and raised, different experiences, whether you're raised in the North, whether you're raised on the West Coast and East Coast, you just happen to be raised in the South in Tupelo, Mississippi. So you see our history, our legacies we learned, but how has that shaped on how you celebrate or what you do to celebrate Black History Month?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. So like you just said, I was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, which is really the rural South. So growing up, it was really taught to me that I need to appreciate Black history because it wasn't taught in my school. I was only one Black student in the whole fifth grade. That's when I moved to Tupelo. So it was very a struggle for me. So what I try to teach my kids right now who are biracial is to acknowledge your Black history, the struggles that people went through in the past so that we can have these opportunities to be a recruiter in the Air Force. Because there was a time, the only job that we could have is being a cook. We couldn't vote. We couldn't do things of that nature. So just always showcasing the amazing achievements that these people went through so you can have these opportunities. Never take anything for granted, because my grandma talked about being afraid to leave her house, being afraid to go to the store. So when I start to feel ungrateful, I think about my grandma, who is my Black history hero, because she raised 8 kids in Mississippi in the 60s, and that was a struggle. So it's just a time to celebrate that. It's just time to celebrate everything that they did in the past and the present. So I teach my kids that every single day, to appreciate everyone's background and struggle, because you never know what that individual has been through to get where they are. So let's never assume that someone had it easier than us. We never know.
That's a good point. And then to that end, your amazing background, grounded in a lot of love and support from your family. But then you're the first face that someone would see ultimately if they're going to make this deliberate life change to join the professional's arms, or in particular the Air Force. Like you walk in, whatever your path of that they may encounter a recruiter or a Sergeant Mitchell. So how would you like to that end? How would you like to see us further evolve, whether it be Black History Month as we evolve and talk about race diversity in the U.S., or those that we love to have in our all-volunteer force?
Let's not be afraid to have that conversation, to me, about stereotypes, because even as an Air Force recruiter in 2023, people will meet me and they automatically have this mindset of how I'm going to conduct myself. And sometimes people are very taken back when I'm professional, like, oh, you're professional? And I have to be like, yeah, did you think I wasn't professional because I'm going to be African American? I'm going to talk to you a certain type of way? Like, no. So it's not to me, just not being afraid to have those awkward conversations, because that's how you prevent stereotypes. Because I've met people who grew up in the Midwest and they think every African American loves hip hop. We all love to drink. We all love to do this. I'm like, no, let's talk about this. I love classical music. I love country. I love this. So I am open to everything. Let's just have those conversations about stereotypes.
Yeah, and I think so the conversation, it starts with a contrite and a sincere hello, right? Hello, I'm Tech Sergeant Denarius Mitchell, proud representative of the U.S. Air Force. I'm Second Lieutenant, future Dr. Carlson Teboh. Or I'm Saunya, who's amazing and accomplished and well studied, and a whole list of experience and degrees. So I think that simple starting with hello, and those conversations and those we all, there's those unconscious biases, or there's that fear and that trepidation. And someone told me you should never assume. So I remind myself of that daily, to not ever assume for anything, because you literally do not know who you're talking to, or just the background of the makeup of someone. So great points. Saunya, tell me a little bit about your recruitment story. What made you want to join the Air Force and be an amazing Air Force member, associate director for so many, a dietitian? Tell me a little about your story. Who is Saunya Bright?
Okay, sir. Well, I am the child of sharecroppers' children, right? And so my mother was the first in her family to attend college. And my father was part of the Great Migration from Tennessee, Fayetteville, Tennessee, a small town south of Nashville, 30 minutes north of Huntsville, Alabama, to Chicago. And so it was a team of people that helped my mother to learn about the career field of dietetics. She was picked up for an internship in Chicago at a VA hospital, which worked out great for her and my father. And that's how my family's story began in a professional way, degreed way. And so mom was a dietitian and I grew up, we moved around. I'm a VA kiddo. And then my first job was with the VA. I'm also a VA intern and I wanted to be like mom. So I became a dietitian. And so I worked at the VA in Tampa, Florida. And the first week that I was there, I attended the commissioning of a dietitian into the Air Force who had graduated the year prior. Didn't know that that was an option. And so put that in my back pocket. And then when it came time for me to graduate from the internship, it happened to be a year where the Air Force needed direct accessions. And the Air Force medical recruiter in Tampa at the time happened to be from Montgomery, Alabama. And so the stars aligned, and I was able to get my foot into the door. At the time, the VA would hold your position for 3 years. You'd still stay on their payroll, and you could go active duty. And I decided that was what I wanted to do. And my first assignment was at Langley Air Force Base, 2001. And so that was what helped to lay my Air Force foundation. And when the time came to submit my resignation to the VA, I was happy to do so because the Air Force lifestyle was one that I thought was compatible with what I wanted to do and my goals. And so that's how I happened into the Air Force. It wasn't something that I had planned. I thought I was going to be a VA dietitian for my career. Over.
So you didn't choose service. I think federal service chose you.
Yes,
so
sir.
I think it was very awesome that was that happened. Carlson, as we share a little bit about your background, Georgetown. When I speak to you, I just see just a sense of someone's the commitment, the dedication, I would think desire comes across for you. A quick question for you from a side, Carlson. If you had a billboard anywhere in the world, like on a street corner, you travel so much, and there's one that's tall billboards, what 2 words would it say about you on that billboard that would be out first thing showing the world about you?
Wow, what a question. I would probably say resilience would be one of the words, but there's something about a word like mission or purpose, like having some sort of like there's a sense of mission and purpose mixed with resilience. So I would probably say purpose and resilience.
So with that purpose, what was your story about why you wanted to join the Air Force in the profession of arms?
Yeah, that is a great question. So when I, was really blessed to have gone to a school like Georgetown, and one of my favorite things about that school is they really instill a sense of service in the students, whether it's during school, after school, and while I was in DC, I had a chance to meet actually met an Air Force officer. He was I think at the time he might have been a colonel or lieutenant colonel, I don't remember. And I admired his sense of discipline, and I met him through church. Um, I knew I wanted to join the Air Force before I wanted to go to medical school, and I never intended to do them separately. And for me, though, the struggle was I did not know the multiple paths that one could take to enter the Air Force. I might have done things differently if I'd known otherwise, but I didn't have any mentors. I sort of had to do a lot of online research, ask a lot of questions from people that I knew, either from church or from school, about their experience in the military. But I just kind of winged it. I came to Omaha and I applied for the HPSB scholarship after I'd already been in medical school against my better judgment. But I just done a lot of research. I saw that the Air Force was the newest branch. They seem to be the smartest. I know there's smart people in every branch. I don't know when exactly that I learned that they were the first branch to integrate, um, as in desegregate rather. And so there are many things that drew me to the Air Force as opposed to the Army and the Navy, which I really admire and respect. I just don't think I'm built for that, physically at least. But that's how I sort of ended up in the military. But my family has no military background. I really had no context except this, love of America and wanting to serve in some way.
There are so many compelling and amazing stories. One that when you were talking, one that came to mind for me, Carlson, was being a former medical center commander at Nellis Air Force Base. And I used to wander quite a bit and just, walk in the duty sections. There's one young man from LA, humble beginnings. And it was a young airman. I think it was an E1 or E2, began to talk. And then, we're talking about, hey, what's your story? What's your purpose, to your point? And he was the youngest of 5, and he had to be, gosh, I want to say 19 or 20. But his single parent household, it was him and his father and his siblings. And, think of it, you can look up a pay scale. You're coming at early entry level of his career, not a lot of money, but the majority of his money he was sending back to his father and his siblings to help provide for them. And I tell you what, that really struck a chord. I thought I was literally going to cry in the middle of the records room at Nellis Air Force Base. So there's so many moving, impactful stories like that out there. So Denarius, that being said, tell me a little bit about what was your story. I think what's the most impactful story that you've heard of why it's important to have a unique and a diverse medical service corps in Air Force at that.
Yes, sir. So I believe it's important to have a diverse medical corps because it allows you to see different perspectives and provide the best medical care as possible. Because when people experience different things throughout their life and maybe even go to a diverse medical school, they're used to how people grew up and maybe they're afraid, like an African American, my grandma, my mom, they're afraid to go to the doctor because they feel like they go to the doctor who is not African American, that person is not going to truly care about their symptoms. They only care about, do you have insurance? Can you pay me? If you don't, just go somewhere else. So the more diversity that you have, the better your team can understand patients, their concerns, and you can provide the best medical care possible.
Great answer. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Shannon. So welcome, Shannon. I hope all is well in Arizona with you. And just by way of introduction, I'm going to brag on you a little bit if you indulge me, if you don't mind. So Second Lieutenant Shannon Alsobrooks, selected for the Health Professions Scholarship Program in spring of 2021, a rising third-year medical student at the University of Arizona. Commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force after completing officer training school of summer of 21. Her scholarship included $100,000 tuition, $2,400 and monthly stipend, and $20,000 bonus when she was welcomed to the Air Force family. She is originally from Maryland, is the first generation college student, holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Appalachian State, a Master's of Science in Biomedical Studies at Drexel College of Medicine. A fun fact about Shannon is a member of the Archer Ragsdale chapter of Tuskegee Airmen in the greater Phoenix, Arizona area, which celebrates the historical contributions of the Tuskegee Airmen. So well accomplished, well-rounded, and then so glad that you made the right decision to join the Air Force. How hard was that for you? And then one, I guess, how hard was that for you to make that decision? And two, what is the landscape of medical recruitment and diversity at the University of Arizona currently?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy and very honored to be a part of this talk today. I'm so sorry I was running a little late. I'm at the hospital. I was just meeting with an actual former student who's a former HPS student in the military, who's now a bariatric surgeon. So she served in Iraq and was deployed. So just trying to make connections wherever I can.
That's what we do.
Yeah, but I guess for me in my journey, I actually had to apply to medical school twice, and I was completely sold onto the Air Force both times. So I submitted my application for HPSP before I even applied to medical school, and was kind of doing a lot of that research, the legwork on that very, very early in advance to kind of learn all I could learn about the process. I also do not come from a military family, so a lot of it was very much trying to figure out as I went. But really what appealed to me the most about the program was the opportunities for leadership, the ability to just grow in my career with that extra added support, the family-oriented nature of the military I thought was very appealing to me. And then also just the enrichment of my medical education as a whole. But then speaking specifically on my school, I'm actually the only HPSP student in my class of 120. In our first year class that came in after me, we have 2, but I'm still the only Air Force. So we have an Army and a Navy student. Wow. But I'm the only one, the only diverse student of our cohort on our campus. But I'm just so honored to be able to kind of like carry that torch and be that representation for my campus. And hopefully as I move through my career, I'll be able to just keep making strides and hopefully to encourage more diversity in the Air Force and medical school.
Well, something tells me that you're holding your own, and you're representing so many different subsets. So thank you for just being an amazing person, amazing leader. So with that being said, the only Air Force, what would you say to others about the Health Profession Scholarship Program, what offers medical students opportunity to see full tuition? And as I mentioned, your generous monthly stipend. So if you had to give your recruiting spiel to someone across campus or someone thinking about medical school, I guess, what would you say to them in terms of what you've realized up to this point?
I would say really just keep an open mind and do your research and look at all your options beforehand. I know a lot of my classmates in particular that I've talked to about my experience and kind of the benefits that have come along with this opportunity. They were like, wow, I had no idea. I thought that the Air Force was, you could only go into certain specialties or only go to certain schools. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what the commitments are and things like that. So I would just encourage students who are interested in going to medical school is to really look at this as a valid and very powerful option to take. And really look at the big picture and how you would like to see your life moving forward. The support, being able to already come in with the camaraderie of, and the backing of all your brothers and sisters in the military. I've never felt that I was unsupported. Whenever I say, oh, I'm in the Air Force, it's like I'm getting hugs from everyone and everybody's so well receiving of me. So that's something I would love for students to know is look at all your options and don't kind of take it for that military face value of, oh, I'm giving up so much, or for some reason not going to have opportunities, but really your opportunities are going to be even more expanded with these opportunities in the Air Force and other branches as well. So that's what I would say to students.
That's awesome. And then with that being said, Denarius, is not only med students, but folks who are considering the nursing transition program. I know I was on the campus. I wish I would have met you, Shannon, a few months ago. I was actually talking to HPSP pharmacy students, and I met with the business school students. And there's actually one that was in the class, and said it was seeking to understand knowledge, a nursing student. Because so with that, Dan, tell me a little bit about there's a great need across America, especially in the Air Force for nurses. So tell me a little bit about the advantages of the NTP and some of the things that we offer as well.
Yes, sir. So for the nurse transition program, this is for brand new nurses who have zero experience. It is a 10-week course. So if you are selected for this program, the Air Force is going to have you shadow a nurse in the Air Force to show you what is the expectations of being a nurse in the Air Force and also being an officer. What I tell brand new nursing students is, from what I hear in the civilian sector, when you're a brand new nurse, sometimes that nurse who's training you, he or she doesn't want to share her knowledge because you can end up taking their job. So they want to withhold some things from you and not provide you the best training. But in the Air Force, we don't have that mindset. We're always trying to prepare the Air Force for once we leave. So once we separate or retire, we're going to make sure that you have the world-class training and you're able to take our spot. So we're not worried about it. If I train you extremely well, you're going to take my job. So we're going to make sure that you are a confident, capable nurse. It's not going to be something where, hey, here's your job. We're going to throw you out to your wolves. And then if you don't succeed, we're going to fire you, like the civilian world. So that's how I sell the nurse transition program to brand new nurses. We're going to set you up for success.
That's awesome. Thank you, Denarius. With that being said, there's so many young, impressionable folks, but even the folks that made a deliberate decision, to separate their prior service and they want to come back in. How hard is it to come back in after you separated and you had a previous prior service?
Honestly, sir, it's extremely easy. We deal with this all the time. We have people who are currently in the Army Reserve, Navy, who's always trying to switch over. Maybe you left active duty and you want to come back. As long as you're not, currently suffering from any type of medical issues, it's extremely easy to come back. As long as you meet the degree requirements and experience for being a nurse, physician, or whatever, we can get you back in. If you're currently in the Air Force Reserve or a sister service, as long as that sister service will sign up on a DD 368 conditional release, we can get you back in. We deal with this a lot. Sometimes people don't realize the Air Force is the best branch. They may join a different one and they want to switch over. So we can definitely help you out with that.
Somehow I imagine that you're walking around with the flag and contracts in your car, and whoever will take you up on the offer, you have them take the oath and sign right there, right? Come on in. So
yes, I have a QR code on my t-shirt. Scan it, you have my business information. I'm just walking around HEB.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Carlson, with that, any Air Force leaders or mentors that have inspired you, that have added to your thoughts? You mentioned about leaving a legacy. So anyone who's whether it be Black History Month, it could be an Hispanic, it could be an Asian, a female, anyone who's inspired you, who's built onto your foundation that you are already have an amazing foundation or base so far.
Yes, actually, I've been learning a lot recently about General Charles Brown, who's the Chief of Staff of the Air Force currently, and I believe he's the first Black person to hold that position. And I just admire how diplomatic he's been since he's been in that role in a really trying time in the country, as the things that happened in 2020 and 2021 with the election and the murder of George Floyd and so many things that cause a lot of division in society. I think he really was able to hold his own. I think he was able to be honest without being polarizing. And it gives me hope. I'm really proud to be in the Air Force and have him leading the team.
I would say, no, go ahead,
Carlson. Thank you to Lieutenant Shannon for joining and sharing her experience. I'm also the only Black student in my class of 169 students, and it encourages me that other people are in similar situations but are still standing their ground and just showing up, shining, doing the best they can, knowing that it's paving the way for other people after them. So thank you, Shannon.
Thank you to both of you. I would say, if not you, then who, right? So thank you for what you're doing in the fashion that you're doing it. With that being said, I recently read, as we were talking about assessing and recruiting others in a diverse ranks, Recently, there's a recent scholarship that was awarded for folks that are in their third or fourth year for ROTC that affords them an opportunity to come in and serve. And because, again, the diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of talent. With that being said, Saunya, you want to tell me about some of the unique opportunities we have in the Air Force, whether it be the DAF BEST or from the HBCU intentional mentorship program that you've experienced to date?
Yes, sir. So the DAF, Department of the Air Force, BEST stands for Black African American Empowerment Strategy Team, has an HBCU intentional mentorship program that matches mentors, so active duty members, with ROTC cadets. And we meet one-on-one, we in person, we sometimes do Zoom calls. My experience has been with a Det 130 cadet over at Howard University, where, because we're co-located, she has come to visit me here at the Defense Health Headquarters, where I work at AFRA, and met air evac nurses, since that's what she's interested in doing in her future. And so we really try to be intentional about, or we are intentional about how we provide insight, information regarding what individual interests are. And so each month we've done something new. We engage via text, but every mentor-mentee relationship is different. It really just depends on the personalities of the individuals involved. But we've been able to do things like, visit the Women's Memorial here at Arlington Cemetery. We've met, and I've gone to the DET and visited the cadets there, and through our conversations been able to connect members with mentors, so that they can too have that relationship that caters to their individual concerns or interests, so that we can help them to reach their goals. And we do that. We set goals from the onset, both short-term and long-term, and then help the mentees to reach those goals.
That's awesome. Thank you. I know from all of us have had many different experiences, and almost like mythbusters of some of the questions, trepidations, or thoughts you may have about joining professional arms. What was the biggest thing, I think, that you were worried about or concerned about, and did that hold true with your? My point is being, as we, whether it be through diversity, we talked about tough conversations. It might be the sense of not having that knowledge of awareness of some of the unknowns. We all might have thought about that, about joining the ranks. Did that hold true for you, or were your thoughts and your perceptions, did they not come to reality, or it was something that, very trivial, or something that you didn't have to worry about after all? So what was the biggest thing that concerned you? And again, tell me about your experiences, and how did you deal with that, or was it a big nothing burger for you? How about you, Shannon?
Yes, sir. I think the biggest experience I can draw back from is my experience at officer training school. I think I really had no idea what to expect for that experience for, I think, the 5-6 weeks that I was there. But I really try to keep an open mind with whatever I go into. And the kind of first thing I thought, we had a Facebook page to kind of meet with students who were in our same class, and just trying to connect with people to get some familiar faces, make some connections before we were to head out to training. And I was looking for someone who looked like me, who was from an African-American background. And when I got there were, I believe, 3 of us out of our entire class of about 300 HPSP students. So we were majority HPSP, but I think we had 1 JAG and 1 chaplain. And that was a little bit of a, not so much shocking, but, a little disappointing to see. But at the same time, it was nice to have at least the small group of us that we were able to connect with each other during that time. And we still keep in touch to this day. But I know for me, I just always try to keep an open mind in whatever interactions I go into and try not to take, any preconceptions along with me. So I think that really helped me to kind of keep everything in perspective and realize, the opportunity that I have and the place that I'm in to be able to make changes and kind of look at it from that perspective instead of like I'm the minority, maybe looking at it like this is an opportunity for me to make a change here. So that's what I would say, sir.
That was awesome. That was like the Willy Wonka secret that you just shared at the beginning. So that was an amazing just pearl in advice. It's all about your attitude and your perspective, how you approach anything in life. So I really admire the way that you approach that and build relationships throughout the whole class, not just the three of you. I would bet you're very strong and respected by everyone in the class. So that was awesome. Saunya, what advice would you give to other leaders as you're looking to increase? Again, this is Black History Month, but you've heard me say my words is, I'm a proud African American every day, not just in February. So what would you say for others in increasing diversity and inclusion of the ranks? Your thoughts on that?
Sir, I would just, I would say be inclusive, but also intentional in our inclusivity, because we all bring value. It's not just, one particular, background. We gain strength from, the different perspectives that we pull from. And so, it's all minority serving backgrounds that I think that we should intentionally seek inputs from, because that's what gives us our true strength, sir.
And I would say humbly, I've been serving 25 years, and it's not just one person or people or type. It's been so many that have just invested in so much into me that I can invest into others, and I am truly grateful for that. Carlson, and just again, an amazing story. We have two lives, and the second begins when we realize that we only have one. So I think you realize that from your beginning, you're just trailblazing. What advice do you have to others that are, I would say, folks often say folks coming behind you, but I'm right in front of you and preceded you. So what advice do you have for an old guy like myself as a senior leader? And what would you say for folks that inspired to be doctors like yourself? So what advice do you have for me? And then what advice do you have for others?
Okay, well, for you and others that are ahead of me, I think
look at this gray hair. That's enough right there.
Well, when you told me how many years you've been in the Air Force, I was shocked because you don't look it at all. But the advice I would give to people who are in your position ahead of you is to what you're already doing, listening to people who are where you were, just so you can keep abreast with how things have changed. Maybe I would imagine there are some things that are different with my generation, Shannon's generation, that would have been different when you were in our position as second lieutenant. So keeping in touch with how the changes in society and culture are affecting us. And then I would say for people coming behind is to reach out from seek mentors. Don't always wait for someone to find you. I mean, I'm an aggressive networker, an aggressive mentor seeker. I would not be where I am if I did not reach out to people. And thankfully, people will say yes. If they say no, it's usually because they don't have the bandwidth, and usually they'll refer you to someone else. So those who are ahead, keep looking back, and those who are behind and trying to get somewhere, keep looking ahead and find people.
That's great. If I often share with others as I'm speaking or mentoring, I ask folks to be honest and raise their hand. How many folks have three mentors, a deliberate mentor, so they call a routine contact with, seeking advice, but in turn, how many of you have three mentees? They're reaching down and offering the same advice and advantage and just encouragement to others. So please help me share the word on that as well. Denarius, what are your thoughts on what do we tell others? Because I mean, man, you see this up front and center every day, just on who you encounter. As I mentioned before, it starts with a simple hello. You don't know the story on the backstory of that hello. It could be someone for many walks of life. We talked about the bigger diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equality. So, what is your take on this? What do we need to do to increase diversity, not only for Black History Month African Americans, but females, Latinos, Asians, anyone from an underserved or disadvantaged population, or someone who just needs an opportunity? That's my definition of diversity. Anyone from a broader sense. So, what is your thoughts on what we can do in the future to help others?
Honestly, sir, as a recruiter, recruiters having a presence in that community or that school. When I was an enlisted recruiter, now an officer recruiter, what I heard a lot of is, what are you doing here? Recruiters never come here. We have low test scores. We're a low income community. You guys don't care about us. So it was my job to just apologize for that previous recruiter, that regime, and just showcase like, hey, I am here to give you, your students, your family, an opportunity. And I'm always willing to share my Air Force story, growing up in a low-income, family in the South, not having a lot of opportunities. So it's just having that presence and not being willing to share your story. And if you are, say you're a Caucasian and you are going to a Black community, reach out to a flight mate, show up with a Caucasian, Asian, Black, and show the Air Force is a melting pot. We are all working together. There's no racism. We all get along, and we're here as a team. So when I go to schools now, I'll take Sergeant Benitez with me, who's Hispanic. I'll take Sergeant Jones with me, who's Caucasian, to show us, like, look, we're all here. We are working together. I know there's some hostilities in the civilian world, but in the military, we are a family. We all come from diverse backgrounds, and we all have a common goal, and we treat each other with respect.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that is, all of you have something. I was asked Carlson about something that makes you think or resonate. You've all had something that made like, hey, we all can do something a little bit different, right? Stepping our game up, or what we need to do if being admired and critiqued, being the military, one of those admirable professions that are out there. So there's something that we all can do a little bit better. So I appreciate that. So with that being said, again, it's my honor and just an amazing pleasure just to sit down with you and to learn from each and every one of you. Talk about the vein of mentorship. Please reach out to me. If it's carrier pigeon, flare, text, email, wherever way that we can keep the connections and give me a chance to fail you, not exceed your expectations. So that's my role. That's my responsibility, especially in this role now is the senior African-American in the Air Force Medical Service. So that's something I would say to each one of you, but anyone who darkened my doorway at any given occasion, I make myself accessible and available to all. And I'm a lifelong learning from everyone. So thank you for spending some time, for greatly enriching my day. I appreciate all of you, and so proud and so humbled to serve with you and call you fellow airmen. So thank you for your time, and please let me know what I can do for you in the future. Out here from the DHHQ.